I would like to welcome everyone today, and thanks a lot for joining for our Day 2, Session 2 of Product Stability. Extremely happy to introduce Lance Kind. Lance is a published science fiction author, a snowboarder, and a highly skilled computer consultant. He's a multilingualist and has several publications to his credit. The fiction he writes has depth in both characters and society, and often are revealing about environment and social change. He's the author of Cottmeyer, a comic book about agile software development, which has got super reviews, so please don't miss to read it. He's a senior consultant and coach, well known for his bold, effective conversations with technical teams and management. He's looked upon as a cool mentor and highly appreciated for his coaching skills, commitment, and technical capabilities. So let's hear from Lance today. So welcome participants again to the session. And I would request you to post your questions and we'll pick it up at the end of the session. Welcome once more, Lance, and the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Rohini. I'll go ahead and bring up my deck here, and I will share the screen in a moment. Let's see. Please. Okay, you should see a deck now on your screen.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the feedback. So this is about the TDD Convincer Challenge. And one of the things that have come up in my life is trying to help developers do TDD. But one of the key points is to get them to be convinced that we should even start talking about it. Again, as Rohini said, I'm Lance Kind. And here's the plan for today. Today, we're going to take a quiz. And I want to get your answers on record about TDD. And then we'll go through the convincer. And after the convincer, we'll mark your answers to see how, if you develop new ideas about TDD after the convincer. Because if it's a good convincer, you learn some things. And at the end, we will get that out of the way. At the end, we will announce the winner. So if you get a lot of the same answers that I suggest, then you could win a book that I will ship to you over in India. Okay, so let's talk about what is a convincer. So a convincer is something that gives you a small bit of reality in a quick fashion to reduce barriers in your mind to wanting to try a change. I'm going to show you a video about a little bit more of a real convincer. So in the US, what used to be in the 70s, it was very difficult to convince people to wear a seatbelt. And so the states came up with this machine to help show you what it's like to be in a crash so that you could be convinced that a seatbelt's a good idea. Let me show you the video. Sorry, one moment.
Seatbelt. Why? No thanks, I'm good. I'm good. The message is safety. This is an educational tool. We're trying to inform people who may not be aware of the benefit of seatbelts. And I would say that the majority of the population wears it. But we're trying to reach out to that small number of folks that don't wear their seatbelt now and remind them of why they should and the benefit to it. And this really is a great tool to show them. Runner back.
So that first machine, you put the seatbelt on and it stops you so abruptly. It's like a collision at 5 miles an hour. And then you see people like thrown into the seatbelt and they think, wow, that was pretty serious. If I didn't wear the seatbelt, I would have been thrown out of the little car. In this example, this is another convincer where they tumble the car and they show that these people dummies will fall out of the car and get crushed if they don't wear seatbelts if the car is to tumble.
What can happen? So what we look for are participants who usually don't historically wear their seatbelt to sign up, to take a ride, and they get to experience a 5-mile-an-hour crash with a seatbelt, and usually that is convincing, hence the name Convincer.
Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so here are the rules for what we're about to do. Everyone here is a contestant. This is for winning a book of Agile Noir, pictured there in the upper right. And if there's a tie, I'll go ahead and work out the tie. So let me play here. So here's a practice question, just to get everyone ready. And in fact, what we want to do is we want to answer the first question is find an empty row in the spreadsheet. I'll send you the link in a moment and put in your name. So we're going to get registered here. So let me send you within the chat a link to the spreadsheet. But go ahead and go into the spreadsheet and enter your name. And you can find an empty row. Pick a different row, though. Don't pick the same row. Nice meeting you, Atan and Manish. Surendra, nice meeting you. Good morning. And we just need your name first, and then we'll come back and fill out some other things. We'll give this about a minute until the activity stops. Nice meeting you, Nilesh. Okay. Looks like activity has died down. If you come in later or you had some trouble, you can get your name in there whenever you wish. Let's move on to the next question. Thank you for putting your name in. Now here's the test question. This is to practice up for the real test. True or false? Blue is the best color. So go ahead into that spreadsheet and in that first column area, mark it true or false for your answer in that row. So in this example, is Rakesh puts false. He doesn't think blue is the best color. All right. Looks like most people agree that blue is the best color, everyone. So I'm sorry if you picked false. In this case, it's a democratic decision. We'll move on. Thank you. So now it's time to get serious. Yes, it's true. You can be anything you want, as long as Dad approves it. Yes or no? Do you do test-driven development? Go ahead and fill that in go ahead and add that answer to your row. And it's okay if you don't. This is hey, what do you do now? Okay, good. Question 3. Now this one's a little different. So question 3 is the last question for your row. And I want you to list in each cell different things that you think are useful for doing TDD. So if you think TDD is great for your skin, you can write in there, great for my skin. And then if you think it's good for your teeth, you can add that into the next cell to the right. I'll go ahead and fill in the example. So that's why he has reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. I could add more like good for my teeth. Yeah, you get the idea. So just list some reasons of why you think TDD is useful. And this is our baseline to see if I teach anyone anything with the convincer. We'll give you a minute. Okay. If you have any other ideas, you can add them. Okay, yeah, keep going. Okay, looks like people are stopped. Great. Oh. Okay, cool. Looks like people are stopped. So let me move on to the Convincer. So this is from a really cool Indian movie I saw recently called Bharat, which I enjoyed very much and my kids enjoyed very much. And this is where he's entering the tunnel and to do his big performance. So that's what we're about to do. We're going to do the big performance, which is the Convincer. All right. So to convince developers about things, you probably need to do it. You probably need to use development tools. And let me get my development tool up here. And here. Let's see, one moment. I want to make sure you can see this. That's okay. Oh, come on here. So, Rohini, can you see if I just want to confirm that you can see my screen. It shows that you can see this thing that says XXX across the top?
Yes, I can see it, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, I was waiting, trying to change something, but I don't have to change it. Great, thank you for the feedback. So everyone, what we have here is Eclipse or Spring tool suite, and I have this program that I wrote called Farm Game. Now in Farm Game, Farm Game is an application I wrote with TDD. So one of the biggest problems are what we need in our Convincer is to show people what TDD looks like in an application in a quick and convenient fashion. And so I wrote this application with TDD to show people what are the positive effects of TDD. So I have this Farm Game, and it requires, it's like Farmville from an old game in the past, but a very low, easy to develop version, and it just uses ASCII characters. So the map has 5 locations, and they're all dirt. And in my first turn, if I put water in the first location, and then in the second turn, if I put more water in the same location, I will get a bog, which is a spongy, swampy area. In my third turn, if I put seeds in this location and I don't put any more water in this location, it'll dry out and I'll get back to water instead of a bog. And then in the fourth turn, if I add water on top of my seeds, I will get carrots. So the state transition changes like that. And so it's a simple game that does that. And I wrote this using TDD in about a day, maybe a day and a half. And so I have 25 unit tests here. And if I run them, look how fast they are. 0.046 seconds to run 25 unit tests. Let's run it again. 0.037 seconds to run 25 unit tests. So right now I'm trying to convince you that these are very fast tests. They execute very fast. Let's take a look at some other parts of this. So you can see that I have something called map here, and I have a map test, and then I have a time, and I have a time test, and I have a water can and a water can test. If you don't see that pattern, you're not seeing something that was built with TDD. So before I wrote map, I started with a simple test in map test and slowly bounced back and forth between writing tests in map, for map and map tests, and then adding code to map. Let's take a look at what those tests are like. Okay, so the tests are very short. See, there's an at test. The word test is in front of these. That's kind of an old-fashioned thing you don't have to do anymore because we have annotations. So I can go take these words, test words out. And get back to this. Map object not equals. So what this test is saying is like there's a map object, and I'm checking that not equals works correctly. And looks like I make a dirt, a sub object within map called dirt, and a sub object in map called water. And then I run equals, and I assert that what dirt does not equal water. And if I scroll on, I see another one. Test water is W, and dirt is X. Okay. And again, I don't need to have the word test anymore because it's old style. So it's checking that when I create a map, when I create a water object, that the character is X and that dirt is W. So you get the idea that everywhere that there is a public interface, let's take a look at map for a moment. Everywhere there's a public interface, there's a public constructor, or there's a public constructor with no arguments, there probably is a test for that. Let's take a look. Test initialize as dirt. So this is back in my test again. And we create a map without any arguments, and then we confirm that everything is dirt. So everything in this class, TDD means you write the test first. So that means every public method has to have a test for it. And it was written before we wrote the actual code. So I wrote the test for this before I wrote the code. I wrote the test for this before I wrote the code. Okay? So that's what test-driven means, is that we start our test. Let me actually, since I've been making changes, I should see if they still work, right? Because we write the test first, the first part of the conversation is to think about the interface. So I'm thinking about initialize, because that's the initialize interface right there. And in other cases, I will think about show. That's another interface on there. And then I signal my interface is the first word, and then underbar signals that my scenario is coming up, and I'm just testing that show can show dirt. So I have map, create a map object right here. I need an array to do this test. So I created an array, and then I assert that everything in the array is dirt. Okay. So the main point is I am doing some interface work while I write the test, and I'm thinking about what I want the class to do. Okay. And so the other ideas that I'm trying to convince you is that these are all very little tests. They're all testing something very short. All right. And they're very fast. So what else can we learn from this? Well, what happens if we have a bug, right? Because this should help us if we have bugs somehow. Let's go into map. Let's make a mistake. Like, let's say, let's change something here. How about we take out this loop? Compiles, it's the first key. Oops, don't need that. So there, I just put a bug in, right? Let's see what happens. All right, the tests run. First thing observed is that the tests that fail are something related to map and another object about time. Can ignore that. And so if you have a bug, the first thing is it tells you really quickly, right? 0.063 seconds, we run the test, boom. Okay. So in a large application, you should still be able to run your unit tests in less than 3 minutes and see the results. If you have a really, really large application, ones with about 10,000 unit tests, you might be running into 5 minutes. So if the unit tests aren't fast, they're not giving you the value of speed of responding to you to tell you that there's a problem. Okay. So let me repair the problem. Put the code back in. All right, cool. So sometimes these tests will tell you practically where the problem is. Let's take out one of those X's in the initializer. All right. And so if you have a large code base, your test will tell you which pretty close what class has the bug. So it's telling me where the bug is. It's not in time. It's not in this functionality. It's in map, or it might be in water can, but we can kind of, guess. We'd probably start where we see the bulk of the failures and start there. Okay. So TDD helps you debug your code. And that's a lot faster than using a debugger, is because the test will tell you in 0.03 seconds where the problem is. A debugger won't be so fast. Okay, so that's the end of the Convincer. I show people some things in this application that was built with TDD, and then I try to show them something that they've never seen before. And if you've seen this before, it won't be a giant change, but most people haven't. Okay, so let's get to score this. Now, I just picked some answers that are some of them are common and some of them are less common things that people realize about TDD after the Convincer. So here's a bunch of answers that I could think of that are the valuable parts of TDD that some people think of a lot and some people don't. So find regressions before checking in. So if I could run the test before I even check in, I find regressions and fix them before I check in. It forces decoupled design. If I'm going to write a test one object, I have to be able to construct it without having it be connected to 10 objects. Puts interface thinking at the start. So test-driven development and test-driven design means I have to think about the interface. It enables fast design experiments, shortens the feedback loop. It creates a document of the developer intent. It helps finding bugs. It reduces manual labor, speeds up delivery, increases confidence that everything's good to go. So now go to the spreadsheet and you get to score your own responses. I'm going to leave this screen here and go look and see among your answers which are similar to one of these and mark it green if it is. So go to the spreadsheet and look. If you have something about interface thinking or design thinking, go ahead and mark that green. If you have something about fast response time, mark that green. I'm going to check and see. I'm marking it green. So I'll leave it here for a little bit and then I'll check in and see if you've got it. Got about a minute here. Flip back. Okay, let's see. I think we're probably done. I'm going to go ahead and space these out and see who got the most green marks. Oops. And all right, let's see. What do we got here? We have somebody with 2 marks, somebody with 1 mark, and okay. So unless I'm mistaken, oh, you got 2 marks here too. All right. So I have a tie between Morali and Nichelle. So I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 2. And Morali and Nichelle, can you type in a number between, how do I say this? Actually, I'm going to make it different. I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 5, and I'll award the prize to the one who's closest to the number in my head. So I picked a number between 1 and 5. So Nirali and Nichelle, could you each guess what number's in my head and put it in the chat? All right, Morali, you won. Congratulations. I owe you a book, and I'll collect how to send that to you. Nice. Yes. Right. Congratulations. We'll make you red. Okay. So congratulations, Murali. And Murali, I need you to send me your postal address. Here's my email address. I didn't make right in the slide. I was goofing around with it. My email address is Lancer. There should be Lancer there. And let me fix it. Add a link. LancerKind, gmail.com. So LancerKind at gmail.com. And send me your, don't do this. Send me your first name, last name. Basically, Murali, could you take a screenshot of this so that you have this? And if you don't, you can just send me an email and I'll help you. Basically, I need your name and your street address and your postal code and the zone or your state. Okay, cool. So, and if Murali, if you have some confusion, just send me an email to lancerkind at gmail.com. The slides I'll send to you the group somehow as well. I'll check in and see how to do that. So you have all that. So how to get a team to develop with TDD is you need to learn something about TDD. You personally, if you want to get a team to develop with TDD, if you're going to be the champion, you need to learn something about it. Here's some ideas. There's a podcast called Agile Thoughts, which I happen to be the host of, which goes through things about test automation strategy, details on TDD, and also a radio play about why developers don't do TDD. So it's about a story about a developer who's trying to get his team to do TDD and how challenging it is. Okay, so you can find that online if you just Google Lancer Agile Thoughts. And again, I'll send the deck out to you guys. The other thing is to become a catalyst. So when you develop your skill, try doing TDD on your code at work so you can learn some of the challenges, because there are some things that make it a little complicated, but they're all things that you can learn because you're developers, and developers learn how to automate things. And automating test is a valuable thing. You can build support, or you should build support with your management and your team leads. And then you get to work with your team to do it together. Do some coding katas and dojos with your team. Work together on doing TDD so you can teach the rest how to do it. You can do mob programming for a sprint on project work until team members can split off and continue doing TDD. A few more resources. TDD Academy, Agile Thoughts podcast, we just talked about. Coding Stories and GitHub. Let's just give you a quick look at that. Coding Stories are something online, codingstories.io. It's free. You go there, and it has a system of teaching developers how to do an activity. And there's other coding stories there as well. And I have one called TDD Hello World, its full title, which is TDD Hello World to Mocking. So it teaches a simple example that takes you into mocking and why you need to sometimes do some mocking to get unit tests to work. Okay. Also, what I offer personally is a live training classes online that I set up for convenient times in India and in North America called TDD.Academy. And there's a full stack development course. That's a 6-hour, 2-day course. And there's a 90-minute course as well, a small one, where we just something to get started where maybe you're not sure yet that you want to have a big course. And of course, there's the book. Okay. And that's it, Rohini. How am I doing on time?
Yeah, you still have 50 more minutes. And
15 more minutes. Wow, I went too fast.
But that was a great interactive session. Audience, do we have any questions for Lance? Best time to ask questions, right?
And I'm going to put in the Coding Stories link while you guys are thinking up some.
Sure.
And
audience, any questions? I think they'll all reach out to you. Yeah, same question that was running in my mind, right? So I think we have one question here.
That in there.
I would like to read out the question for you, Lance. How to convince management for TDD? They want to see things moving on day one.
Yeah. Well, create a convincer like I just did so that they see the value of doing TDD, and that will get them excited. I saw managers when I showed them a convincer for acceptance test driven development, which is like TDD but higher level, or TDD. Either way, you show them, hey, I've got this body of code. Look how fast the tests run. And then this is the key point. When I do this interactively, I ask somebody in the audience to come put a bug in the code. So I ask a manager, hey, go put a bug in this code and watch what happens. And so they can pick any area in the product code, not the test code, but the product code, make a bug and run the test. And if it tells them if the test fails because it detects the problem, they'll get really excited because they've never seen that before. They'll think, holy smokes, this is amazing. So that's what I would do. First, you got to help them understand the value. And that's one of the parts of the convincers, to show them what an application that was written with TDD looks like and what it feels like, and show them some aspects of what I showed you.
Thank you, Lance. One more question. What is typical requirement design lifecycle in TDD as opposed to waterfall model?
The typical, did I hear requirement as well?
Or a design lifecycle?
Oh, okay. So when I'm going to sit down and build something with TDD, it's the same as you do at work. Is you probably identify where you're going to make the code change. And once you identify where you're going to make the code change, like there's a class out there called connection.java, you think, oh, okay, let me see what method I need to change. You discover what method. Maybe it's the disconnect in connection.java with a disconnect method. You think, okay, I want to change that method. So now you enter the world of TDD. So first you identify where to make the change, and then you test drive the change. So now I need to write a unit test for the connection.java class and the method disconnect. And I write a test in there that fails because I haven't changed the code yet. I haven't changed the disconnect code in the class. And so the test fails. And then I think, okay, great. Now I can go in and change the product code so that the test passes.
Cool. Thank you. One more question to go. Does the same developer who does code also write test classes, or would they be different?
It's always the same developer. It's really you wouldn't want to do TDD with a different person doing the tests unless you're pair programming and the two of you are working side by side, because it's not healthy to have that handed off to a different person, somebody who doesn't know the code. And it would be quite slow because you're just writing one test to start your brand new, let's say you're going to make a brand new class. You just write one test to make a brand new class. And then the test is maybe you test the constructor. After that test passes, you think, wow, what's the next thing I need to create in my brand new class? Oh, maybe I need a copy method. So you write a test for the copy method. So you're going back and forth between one test, write some code in the product code. And once it passes, you go back to write another test, and you go back to the product code. So you're going back and forth like ping pong, and you wouldn't want to do that between two people who don't work closely together, like pair programming. You could do it with pair programming, but if you're not pair programming, it would be a terrible idea to have different people do those activities. It would be too slow.
Any more questions, guys? Okay, I think Murali is asking, even though he's getting a book, he's asking, do you have a Kindle version of this book?
I do not. I've only got a printed version, so I'll be sending you a printed version to whatever address you email to me, please.
Okay. Okay. One more question. Developers think if a feature need X time for development, with TDD, it needs 1.5 times, right? So what do you think?
The funny thing is it doesn't. It's actually faster. So when a developer sits down to write code, they think, oh my gosh, I have this extra task of writing the test now, and that's going to slow me down. But what they're not thinking about is if you don't write the test, you're going to spend a whole bunch of time debugging what you wrote. And then the next time you go in that class, you're still going to spend that time debugging what you wrote. So this amount of time you spend debugging the first time might be a little less than the time it takes to write the test. But the next time you add more functionality or somebody else in your team does, they have to spend that same amount of time because manual testing with the debugger is throwaway work. So you just spend the time to do the automated test, and you only spend it once, and you check it in your code, and you get value from it every time. And when a bug does crop up, you don't have to go back to the debugger because the test just tells you, hey, everything's good, or oh, oops, there's a problem. So it's not really true that it takes longer to do TDD. I'm open to the point that it could be, but I've never seen it. And people worry about the first time about, how do I say this? Oh, I'm not used to doing this activity of writing tests, so therefore I think it doubles my time. And so I tell my management, oh, it's going to double my time, then they're not interested. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. So the next question is, how can we tell if TDD is helping? Any metrics you could recommend? Any metrics?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, code coverage is an easy one. It's okay. Code coverage is a good one because it's easy to do. That's the first one. Second one is let me see here. How many times does somebody have to use the debugger? Because the debugger is very, very expensive. Every time you use a debugger, minutes to hours start going by, and people will do that. Developers will do that by habit rather than spend that time writing tests. So the less you use the debugger, the more you're spending valuable time either writing new functionality or writing automated tests for that functionality. So if you use the debugger less, that's a good sign. If you are shipping with no defects, that's another good sign. So I've had many releases with 0 bugs, and almost nobody can believe this. But it's very simple. If you have tests for everything, when a test fails, you don't ship it till you fix the problem. And when it's easy to fix a problem, you just fix it, and then you ship. So that's the other one. So defects, track number of defects per release, track within your team if you're using the debugger a lot. Might be hard to do, and then code coverage.
Cool, that helps. Thank you. Do we have any more questions, audience?
So as far as ebooks, the Scrum comic book, the project management comic book, Scrum Noir, it does have ebook versions out there, but Agile Noir does not. And those are on Amazon.
Cool, thank you. Just a few more minutes, guys, if you want to utilize this time.
Am I the first person today to have time left for questions?
No.
Darn it, I want to be the first.
I'm sure they have a lot of questions, but sometimes, they need time probably to get into their sinking in and then, come back with questions, right? Probably they'll reach you offline.
I'm happy because usually I have I'm still in the middle of my talk or halfway through my talk when somebody says, oh, it's time to stop. I think, no.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Okay, one more to go. Does TDD applies for all frameworks, UI, backend?
Interesting thing is it does. Most common is in the middle tier, but in the UI, for example, web applications, there's tons of testing frameworks. So if you're using React, there's something called Jester. And so Facebook's interested in having their site up all the time, right? And so of course they do TDD. I don't know if everybody does TDD, but Kent Beck spent a lot of time out there coaching them on such aspects. And React comes with a unit test framework. Another one is iOS has C-Test. C-Test? Oh my gosh, I forgot the name. Anyways, it has a unit test framework. As far as I know, everything except sometimes mainframe one code is a little hard to find unit test frameworks, but they're usually out there. But pretty much everything has a unit test framework, so you can write tests.
Cool. Okay, guys, I think we have time for one more last question. Cool. I think,
Right.
okay, I think one more. I get confused between mocks, fakes, and stubs.
Wow, yeah. I think it's a little confusing too, to be honest. I think people get too hung up on creating all these names. So to me, you have test code and you have product code, but keep that clear. What's your product that you're shipping in? What's the test code testing? And now if you need to make a mock object, I use the word mock object in a generic way for many things. I might say fake data for when I need fake data, because that's not the same thing as an object, but my fake data probably lives in an object, so I still have a mock object that carries the fake data. Test doubles and stubs. I don't spend time worrying about those things. This is how I think about it. I think about what's the minimum amount of code I have to write to get my test to work. And if that is a simple thing, that's so simple it's a stub, great. If I have to have a stub that's a little bit more complicated, then it's a mock object. So I'm most happy if I have everything be stubs, but I'll still use the word mock object because I don't want to be bothered with different words. You can use mocking frameworks such as Mockito, etc., to make stubs, right? So these words are a little bit like not necessary, a little bit necessary, but I think most of the time it's not necessary. Just think about, I need something to fake my data, or I need something to mock my data, or mock my whatever I'm trying to do. I don't worry about the confusion part. I just get work done. Okay.
So I think Murali is responding saying, yes, I too see it that way. I'm not alone here.
There's a lot of effort to think about to create these boundaries, but why bother? Just get the test and the code done. That's what I do.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think we're at the top of the hour. It was a fantastic interactive session, Lance. I mean, thanks a lot for taking the time from your busy schedule and participating in our TAC 2020. And I would like to thank all the participants. And just to know everyone that today is our last session that we have, and we'll meet tomorrow again at 5:00 with different sessions to come up for, different themes and portfolios like we have. So thank you so much. And, we'll meet again. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Lance.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good day.
I'll be closing the session and we'll be off live streaming now. Thank you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye-bye.